The automobile is one of the most important inventions that revolutionized the modern world. In America, the rich history of car culture runs deep as technology continues to shape the future of the industry. Jason Stein, former publisher of Automotive News, is here to share the stories of people passionate about cars, from industry leaders and innovators to car-obsessed celebrities. Buckle up as Jason takes you inside the boardroom, onto the track, and around the bend on Cars and Culture on SiriusXM Business Radio.
Welcome to SiriusXM's Cars and Culture. I'm your host, Jason Stein. There's a turning point taking place at one of the largest automakers in the world. It starts with a product lineup that consistently ranks the brand at the top of the sales charts. It continues with a dedication to carbon neutrality and clean emissions, but unlike its rivals, not necessarily a headstrong hard pivot into electric vehicles. And it continues with a total change in leadership. Toyota, that company with a long-term vision and very few dramatic swerves left or right, is hitting a dramatic point in time for all three reasons. But it's not veering as much as it's adjusting, which is exactly fitting for a company that once declared a 100-year outlook when it moved from Southern California to Plano, Texas a number of years ago. Now that's a vision. And who's leading the charge? In North America, a man who's had his own clear view of the future and his place in it. Jack Hollis is all about building great car culture. One could argue he is the culture of Toyota, or Toyota is Toyota because of executives who exhibit his kind of culture. Hollis is a self-described servant of the brand, and he's doing things today that will make Toyota great in the future, leaving a legacy for others to follow. Hollis is Executive Vice President of Toyota Motor North America and also the President of Toyota Motor Sales. And in his role, he's responsible for product planning, sales, marketing, distribution, and customer service for the Toyota and Lexus brands in North America. That makes him the architect of the present and the future. And it means resetting the conversation around EVs, carbon emissions, and future fuels. Not bad for a guy who wasn't even supposed to be in the auto industry in the first place. He was supposed to be with the Los Angeles Lakers front office if he had it his way. But that was a long time ago, and he's a different person now. And now he's the former sports star who's captain of Team Toyota. In a candid conversation, Hollis shares his thoughts and tough talk on the industry and the road ahead. He's at the center of Toyota's turning point. In a conversation just a day after the new global boss, Koji Sato, came to town for his first public appearance anywhere in the new job. Toyota, a turning point, and Jack Hollis on Cars and Culture.
Hi, this is Jack Hollis, and this is Cars and Culture with Jason Stein.
He could have been a Major League Baseball player. That part I know. He's already a team captain. And he just had a pretty big visitor hit town in Plano, Texas. He saw his team captain, his new team captain. Jack, how are you?
I'm great, Jason. How you doing?
Good. Tell me about your visit by your new global president.
Yeah, it was so great. Koji Sato goes from being kind of our, he was the president and global leader of Lexus and I call him the chief engineer of all chief engineers, and gets promoted as Mr. Toyota. Got moved into the chairman's role and took over kind of that level. Our new CEO and president is Koji Sato. And so he actually had a chance to take his first international visit. And I'm proud to say he started by coming to North America. And we had him in Plano yesterday, and we had a great day with him. Got a chance for him to meet with all the associates. We had coffee with Koji. Had a great opportunity to have him be a part of really what's happening here at TMNA, and then we had a dinner the last couple of nights with him as well. Really good guy, really a tremendous car person, but it's not just loving cars. He loves the business of car making. And I know that seems like, well, isn't that the same thing? No, he has a passion for the actual tangible, touchy feel of the car, but he actually has that same kind of love and feel and touch for the entire global business of it. And I think that's a distinction I really enjoyed kind of learning about more yesterday, his love for the business itself.
It's amazing to me. I was fortunate enough to be there for his visit to see the rock star like activity around him. I mean, you had hundreds of associates taking selfies with him.
Yeah.
He couldn't move more than 5 feet without being, asked for. I mean, he signed autographs and posters. I mean,
Yeah.
this is not the normal stuff of automotive executives, but boy, was it refreshing to see.
It was. And Jason, thank you for your own participation, because you actually started the day off. And I think that idea of having a one-on-one conversation, so that not only the folks in the room, but the people online in the company could interact and see the authenticity of a person. And to me, Jason, you have gone back so long. The business side of this business is the best in the world,
Yeah.
auto industry. But what makes it great is the different personalities,
It's the people.
and no two are the same. And Sato was able to show that yesterday. Just a casual guy who, because of his transparency and just enjoyment of life, people are drawn to it. And I enjoyed it. It was fun. It was just a great day.
It was a great day. What does that mean for the company? Toyota is so steadfast and forward-looking, has a very long-term view of the world. When you moved from California to Texas, the thinking at the time was, when your headquarters moved, the thinking was, well, let's have a 100-year vision here. You haven't had that many global leaders. Akio Toyoda obviously has now been elevated to the chairman of the board. But what does it mean for the company when a leadership change like that occurs?
Obviously, this is my second major in the company, and it's interesting because sometimes I find it to be similar to even as we have in North American transitions, right? We've had several of those, and in every case when that top person has changed, I think what happens is immediately the team members' questions are, who is he?
Mm-hmm.
Because you see a title and you see a person, but when they're actually running it and kind of out front a little bit more, I think people ask more questions. So they want to feel like they know that leader. And inside of Toyota, which has been amazing, is there's always access to every level of senior leadership throughout the globe. I mean, when I go to Japan, I could always go in and have a meeting and say, catch up with Akio Toyoda. Now Sato's first thing to me yesterday was, I asked him, what more can I do for you? How can we support you here in the US? And he's like, just come see me. Make sure when you come to Japan, you come see me, because I just want to hear exactly from the marketplace. I want to know exactly what you're knowing, what you're hearing. And I think what happens is the team members in general, in total, had that same feeling, like, who are you? So even some of the questions that you were asking was, this idea of, hey, what's your favorite book?
Yeah.
What movies do you like? What kind of brands do you like? Your clothes, whatever it might be. And I think a lot of that happened yesterday, even last night at our dinner. I went to dinner last night with our North American Executive Committee. We all went out and we were doing the same thing. Hey, tell us about your wife and the cars you drive and where you go on vacation. And I think that's what the general feeling always is you want to get in Toyota, you want to make the personal connection deeper quickly. And that's what happened. And that's what's happening.
He also was very transparent about the fact that he believes that, and as an engineer, this would make sense, but that he truly believes that cars have to be the center of Toyota's focus, despite all of the other noise that's in the industry. Product is king. And of course, he's the architect of one of the more exciting Lexus vehicles that we've seen in recent memory. So it goes to show that a car guy running a car company,
yeah,
at a time when a lot of people have spent time talking about things other than cars. It's actually quite good to see.
It's quite refreshing. Yeah, it's interesting, Jesse, as you say that, because I think a lot of us were impressed by that yesterday. Akio Toyoda and Koji Sato are so close. They share the passion for the vehicle, and to hear him all day just talk about the idea, it's product, but it's also the innovation and like, but around the actual vehicle, how much fun it can be to be so creative. And I think that not only was it refreshing, it was encouraging to know that under a lot of the rhetoric in the entire industry, that the leader of Toyota is laser focused on the product. And you saw that with Lexus, the TX and the GX. I mean, TX, all brand new vehicle, the extended trip, long 3-row model that the luxury customer has been asking for, and Lexus has been asking for. He brings it in spades on top of a GX that completely rebuilds the GX in your whole mindset of what a GX is at the same time. I mean, that's his passion. Like, why? I don't need to space out my creativity. If we got ideas and we get it done, let's just go. And so we launched not one, but two at the same time. And I think that just shows a little bit of how there's no rule for how you bring out new product. You just bring them out. You just get excited about them.
Yeah. And he shared a story of product development with Akio Toyota, talking about making cars fun and actually adding a wild aspect to vehicles. Make it wilder. Akio's mission to him on a number of vehicles, what says to an engineer, where's the wild part? And Mr. Sato said, well, I don't have a data point for that. I'm an engineer, but I don't have a data point.
Yeah.
But that wild factor, I think, will be the differentiator as folks talk about, and you and I are going to discuss the move to electrification and other modes of transportation.
That's right.
But he will add that wild factor in between Akio and Mr. Sato.
Jason, think about it. Think about it in your role. If someone comes to you and said, hey, you're doing a great job, you're the best in the business, but you are. And then said, now I want you to be more wild. No, how you define that.
Right.
Do I do sillier things? Do I do louder things? Do I be obnoxious? Well, you could define it whatever you want. So for him to define what wild is, he kind of shared some of it last night, is how do we continue to push innovation to the point where people say, wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that to me is a pretty cool definition. How do you say, wow? Okay. Well, I said, Mr. Sato, I'm looking forward to saying wow. And he says, well, Jack, next time you come over, I'm going to bring you right in. I'm going to show you a couple of things we're working on. I'm like, okay. And that was the whole conversation. But I do agree, the wild and where that's coming, I think that's going to lead us into some great areas for our future.
You've been in this role now for long enough to appreciate the sorts of things that you need to do running North America. How's it going?
It's going great. It's the greatest job I could ever imagine, because I have the greatest team. I have amazing people to work with, and running North America is never, ever going to be on any brand or any company is never about a person. It is literally about a team of people to get it all done. And I'm truly proud to lead to some amazing people.
Is this what you wanted to do? I mean, we're going to get into baseball, but what did you want to do when you realized that you wouldn't play for the Cincinnati Reds?
Yeah. Jason, I always had a dream of playing baseball. And the reason is I love competition, and I don't care where the competition comes from. I'm right now, I'm getting into pickleball. Everyone's getting into pickleball. I love pickleball. And the goal is to be the best I can be at pickleball. I love golf, right? And golf is one of those games where, you connect, it's kind of like Kaizen and continuous improvement. You're never best. There's only better. There's only and so I love golf. I love competition. So all I ever wanted to do in life was to compete, to be the best I can be. And doesn't mean always win. And I've had plenty of losses. But my goal always, what I wanted to do was work for any company or myself or an organization that believed in competing with integrity, which is always the word, and you and I have shared this before. Mm-hmm. Competing with integrity to be the best you can be. That's all I wanted to do. And whatever turned out, that's great. And that's what it's turned out, for my career here. It wasn't about ever trying to become the head of North America. I just wanted to lead as many people as I could to win whatever competition. It didn't matter what that was. And it could be Toyota and Scion and Lexus, and I had a chance to be at all of these brands. And all it was to compete to the best of my ability with a team of people in the marketplace to win. And, Sometimes we win, sometimes we lose, but I can't control all of that. I can control just how our team works.
Growing up, I mean, baseball was at the forefront of what you wanted to do, and you moved up to a point where you were in the minor leagues.
Yeah.
And then that one day happened. Tell me about that.
You know, I grew up with a family of athletes. My grandfather is in the Hall of Fame for baseball. He was in the major leagues before the Dodgers came to LA. My grandfather was playing for the LA Angels and the Portland Beavers on the Pacific Coast League. And he's in the Hall of Fame for being a top RBI man in the Pacific Coast League again before Major League Baseball came to LA. So I started with a heritage, and then his son, my uncle, he played professional baseball, and my dad and my uncle, they both attempted to play. Did not make the minor leagues, but they had these tryouts and things. So I've always grown up. My dad's a professional golfer today, and I've had people in and around sports. So I grew up with a competitive sports mindset. So I wanted to play baseball. It was my sport. And to have that opportunity, and I say this with all humility, I worked hard, and God blessed me with a body that I never got injured until I got injured. And I got injured, and it was another way of kind of closing a door, and hurt my right shoulder. I was a center fielder, and I loved the game. But what I loved about the game wasn't so much just about me. It was about, I loved understanding my role on a team and playing it. And it sounds very idealistic, but the fact is, I was fortunate to be a team captain of most of the teams, and I learned how that worked, and I learned about the roles of teams. And so playing baseball to me was the ultimate, because the distinctions of each position and player is so different, and you learn. And I played shortstop, and I pitched, and I played first base, and I played third base, and I played center field, and I played right field, and you start to learn all those positions. So my whole time with it, as I feel like that was a great learning, and I feel like God used that to get me prepared to be in another kind of sport, in another team captain role, and learning how the different roles are. So whether it's parts and service or marketing or sales or any kind of customer satisfaction or loyalty role or market representation or Toyota or Stein or Lexus, it was changing roles to understand the game. And I look at the two as being totally
Intertwined.
And I learned from the baseball to be prepared for today.
So you grew up with athletes, but did you grow up with car guys?
I didn't. I did not. I grew up with friends that were car guys. I grew up with people who loved it. Spent a lot of time on different products. You got to remember, though, I was born and raised in Torrance, so I had
backyard of Toyota,
and Nissan and Honda, right? So they were all in the same city of Gardena, down the street from where my mother was born. So my mom was living in Gardena. I grew up in that area, and so I always had those three OEMs there, and then my friends had had different products. I had one buddy who had a Ford Mustang and wanted to work on it. Another one had a Camaro, wanted to work on it. Another one had a Toyota Celica, wanted to work on it. And so I ended up being around friends, and that's kind of where I had this enjoyment of, okay, the car as more of that point was more of a showcase, right? You're in high school and you kind of want to show it off to your friends or your girlfriends or whatever. And it became more about what something looked like. And as I kind of grew into the business, it was more became, what makes them, like what makes that a good vehicle. And that's where I probably got more interested in design of vehicle than I actually did powertrains, because I thought the design and the differences between OEMs was pretty amazing.
So did you think that the pathway to a automotive career was one for you, or is it just something that happened?
Better take my glasses off for this one. No, let's be straight up. When I got done with baseball, I had moved back to Southern California, and I really wanted to go into the front office of a sports team. I wanted to work for the Lakers. I have a passion for the Lakers and the Angels baseball team, and both were. That's what I wanted to do. I had Toyota down the street, and what I had heard about Toyota was, Jack, you would love working for them. They would love having you work for them because they're all about people. And my strength is I just love people. Jason, I love meeting you. I love meeting people and making connections with just people in this industry. So what drew me was this reputation of Toyota about their respect for people. I did not mean to stay. I meant to be here for 1 year, get a good name on my resume, and go in to work, hopefully at the front office of one of these sports teams.
Yeah, the Lakers. Yeah, you're
The
going to work.
Lakers would have been great. But I'm sitting here before you 31 and a half years later, telling you the reason I stayed and have been here was because, one, I had this passion for people and I was able to grow that. At the same time, I had this passion for the global auto industry, and it grew. And both were like, whew, it was this perfect marriage of a company that has my same culture and feelings inside, and vehicles that have this continuous improvement. I mean,
so tell me about the day you walked in and put your resume down on the desk of an HR or hiring manager. What did you want to do? What was the role?
Okay, I don't know about how much I've shared about this before, but honestly, so I got married. My wife Jane, fantastic, greatest woman of all time. And it's 1991, we get married, and at the time I was actually between my end of my baseball career, which had just ended, and I had this internship at Security Pacific Bank. Security Pacific Bank, during this time, I had done 2 or 3 internships. So I had grown my portfolio of lending. I had it was like a special innovative lending group. And my wife was in Bank of America buys them out. I didn't want to go backwards into being to start at the bottom again. I'm like, dude, I don't want to do that. So she says, well, let's find a job that can move us around the country, move us somewhere. And she's from Portland, Oregon, and Toyota had a regional office in Portland. Oh, I'll go in, I'll do that. Well, at the same time, I was trying to make money any way I could. So my dad is a professional golfer, was at a country club in Rolling Hills, California. I would work like golf tournaments. I would help, run the tournaments with them, right? So I would do whatever they needed. Well, I started at Rolling Hills Country Club. There was members that were from Toyota.
Ah,
well,
there it is.
There it is. And so I met a guy by the name of Bob McCurry. I met another guy by the name of Yuki Togo, and they were best friends, and they played golf together. And one day, Bob McCurry says, hey, if you ever get done with your career, now he didn't know I was, this was a year or 2 before. He didn't know that I was gonna wrap up my career after 2 more years. But 2 years later, he had given me his business card, said, hey, I love athletes. You ever end up your baseball career, you put a resume on my desk and let's get to work. 2 years later, my baseball career ended. I find this guy's card. He didn't tell me what title he was, just said Bob McCurry. End up giving him a call, put a resume, got to meet some people. In fact, the first 3 people I met, I wasn't sure that these were exactly the people I wanted. And he said, no, you need to come back. I'm going to set you up with an interview that's going to be tough on you. I was like, okay. And the tougher the interview got, the more I enjoyed the people that I met. And I think that was in December of 91. And then I started in January of 92. It came on and I started as a management trainee. And I didn't know what I wanted to do, because remember, I just wanted to get a good name on my resume. But they allowed me to start. I started in the distribution department, learned how to distribute vehicles, and they moved me straight to the sales department. And that's when it started. It really triggered. After 3 months in the company, they put me in the sales department, getting up every day, being in the office by 4:30 in the morning, printing out reports and getting to study what was happening around the U.S. And that was it. It ignited. And remember too, Lexus was just starting at the same time.
That's
so
right.
There was this passion for Lexus and Toyota, and I just boom, and here we are today.
Away you go.
Yeah.
Amazing. This show is called Cars and Culture. What's the culture of Toyota 31 and a half years later?
I figured with Cars and Culture, you would have to ask that question. And I'll tell you what it is. It's the exact same that people told me about when I joined. 2 key words: respect for people, or 2 phrases: respect for people and Kaizen. And Jason, you probably have been around Toyota long enough to know that you've heard those words, but that culture is real. Respect for people is everything from diversity and inclusion, which I think is really critical, but it's more than that. It's a culture that says, I respect everything about you. And that's globally, not just here in the US. That to me is what makes this culture. The second part, and which is the most important piece to me as an individual, is the idea of Kaizen and continuous improvement, because that was my baseball career. I was never as physically talented as the people that I played with. But I knew that if I continued to outwork them, I could get better. The idea that the phrase I use all the time is there is no best, only better. There's no best. And that's also a respect for people. So that is the culture. That to me is how to define it. And I have been living it. And I think because it matches directly my own personal person of faith and a person who believing that it's always about kind of maturing. And for me in my walk with God and how that develops, it's always about this continues to go and respect for people and loving people and serving people. And that culture is alive and well. And I believe that my legacy will be is to continue to remind others about how we can serve every person right in front of us. Right now, I can serve Jason in some way. There's some way I can do that. That's what this culture is. And it gives me the opportunity to be exactly who I want to be in this company.
And not many car companies can say that, right, Jack? I mean, you've only worked for one.
Yeah.
But I know you've looked around.
Yeah.
And there's really different philosophies.
Yeah. And I've learned a lot from my dealers. The dealers at Toyota and Lexus are amazing. And everyone, I mean, the greatest friends. And they've taught me a lot about the other OEMs. And I've had other OEMs who have pursued me to say, hey, would you come join us? And we talk the cultures and things. The culture here is not, I have not found it anywhere else. I haven't found it in any other company of any sort. And I love meeting leaders of other companies, but almost always it comes down to more of a transactional type of execution on a company where Toyota really puts the value on the people and be the best we can be, regardless of, we can't control everyone else, but we can control ourselves and our attitude and our effort, and we do that.
Well, somebody mentioned to me when I was visiting your headquarters that the way to sum up Toyota is that people care. Yeah. And as simple as that sounds, and you and I have known each other long enough, and I've had enough dealings with various people, top to bottom within the company, to really feel that.
Yeah,
it is a caring culture for sure. Yeah. It is not. I mean, it's a cutthroat business, Jack.
Yeah,
it's a caring culture.
It's a cutthroat business, and periodically, it's not Pollyanna around here. I mean, there's people who come in, and here's what's interesting. It tends to be those people who kind of come into the company who are cutthroat themselves tend not to last very long.
Yeah, they self-select, as they say.
They do self-select. And it's not like it's soft. I mean, I'm telling you, greatest competitors I've ever been with are in this company. Yeah. I mean, they're giving their night and day and 100% of their effort, but it's in with respect for people to make sure that we're winning together as a team, not getting over on someone else. And that's not only I believe it, I see it all the time. And that caring attitude and is what draws people. It's also, though, what I will tell you is how I feel specifically about not just our team members, but our dealers. The care for them, their care for us as individuals. It is not like anywhere else. It's a true, it's not just partnership, it's a relationship that says we can be friends and do this business to the best of our ability and really enjoy the process.
Well, and for those who don't know, the relationship, the friction between manufacturers, car companies, and dealers can be, you want to talk about cutthroat, it can be extremely cutthroat. It's for some of the most, hostile environments I've seen through the years is that relationship. But I have never heard a word about that situation with Toyota and its dealers. It is truly different.
Yeah, and the way I say it is that Toyota wins because of their dealers, not in spite of them.
Right.
Or despite them. We win because of our dealers. And I think there's the humility on our side to know that we don't win without the dealer principal, their investment, their innovation, and their investment in the community. That's who we are.
And Akio Toyota told the national gathering of dealers last fall that exact message at a time when other manufacturers are saying, this is a different model in America, one that perhaps, we don't like very much, the franchise system.
Yeah.
It's, let's cut some cost. I mean, we all know what happened in 08 and 09 with some brands and their dealers. Yeah. It's definitely something that I can feel. Tell me a little bit about the EV strategy that Toyota has. You have a bit of a different point of view, one that you've shared with me, one that Mr. Sato has shared about the future of, frankly, the propulsion system. Because that's really all it is, right, Jack?
That's what it is. Well, I'm kind of getting used to this question a little bit, and this is where I would tell you, I love EVs. Our company loves EVs. That's why we want to add it to our portfolio. And I think it's important to understand, we love ICE engines. We love hybrid. We love plug-in. We love EVs. We love the fuel cell. We love synthetic fuels. The issue is we love the option or creating options for customers. And, you know, the last I checked, we still live in the United States of America, not the United Socialistic States of America. And I believe that the customer should continue to have choices which are best for them, not mandates from a government. That's how I feel. And our company, what we're doing is we are continuously pursuing what is the best platforms, what is the best powertrains for every kind of person living, not just in the US, North America, well, globally, really. And with the global mindset, you have to be able to produce the best of every, as you said, propulsion system. Because whether you live in the United States, or whether you live in Europe, or whether you live in Africa, or you live in India, you're going to have different power needs and power supply. Power grids for EVs, coal and mining, we can go through the whole deal. But quite honestly, Jason, I think where I as a person and us as a company, again, are matching up. And so often, I'm so proud to know that I get to, my own thoughts is that our goal is to be able to provide Jason Stein with a choice that best fits for what your needs and wants are. And that's what we're going to continue to pursue.
So what do you make of companies that have said it's either or?
Yeah, I think that it's very limiting to the consumer. You know, this industry has always been made up. The transportation industry is made up of different vehicles, different ways to transport yourself. Well, no problem. I mean, depending, and it's a lot of it comes down to how much capital, how much money you have to be able to purchase. Some people, and both here and globally, the amount of money you have is to be able to buy a bicycle. You want to provide a bicycle? Okay, that's great. I don't tell you you have to drive a car. You can drive a bike. You can scooter to work. You can have I mean, we can go on and on of different ways to do things. I think that one of the things is when a person goes to either or, you're limiting a lot of people. But that's okay. See, what this is, if going back to sports, you take Major League Sports, there's 32 teams in most of the Major League Sports, right? You got 32 teams. That's 32 different companies, we'll call it, who have a strategy. Mm-hmm. What strategy do you want to play? I respect every single company in this automotive industry for the choice they're making. Would I make it? No. But you know, the Lakers don't have the same strategy as the Suns, and the Suns don't have the same strategy as Miami Heat. They all have different strategies, and same with baseball, right? You're going to be a pitching team, a defensive team. You're going to be a stolen base team. Okay, it's the same thing in our industry. You're going to be a full line manufacturer. You're going to be EV only, hybrid only, trucks only. Whatever you want to be is what I think that in the US it should be. And that's where I hope that we end up in this. I hope this industry ends up in that way where it is free to be able to do that.
And Toyota still believes in the good old sedan.
Totally. But see, that's our strategy.
Right.
Our strategy is we believe a lot of people want a sedan. A lot of people want an SUV, small and large. A lot of people want a truck. A lot of people want luxury vehicles. A lot of people want convertibles. So why would we limit them? And that's what I don't understand about some of the things that are going on today. Why are some companies and why is government wanting to limit the choice for the individual in the US?
And there's also a fallacy that you've shared with me about carbon emissions and about the production of carbon producing elements of vehicles. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, Jason, man, this is the passion point to me is is we need to be realistic about what we can and cannot do as an industry. I'm not an expert on every piece of this, but in totality, there's 4 major minerals that are needed to produce batteries, right? You have your nickel, your lithium, your manganese, and your cobalt. Okay, so that, if you know that those are there, where are you going to get those minerals? The issue is approximately 80% of the entire process, all the way from the mining to the processing to the creation of anodes and cathodes to the creation of batteries, is owned by China. That 80%. The question is, do we want, as the US industry, transportation industry, to be reliant upon China for our transportation? That's a big question that I think has to be answered. But on the other side of it is, what is the actual goal in battery electric vehicles? Because people keep talking about battery electric vehicles as the end goal, like we need to sell more. Is that true? Or is the goal to reduce carbon emissions? Well, Toyota and Mr. Toyota and Mr. Sato, my own personal belief, is our goal should be is to reduce carbon as fast as we can, every way we can, all the ways that we can, all the time. And if that's really the goal, then more BEVs is not the answer. And you're going to say, oh, well, why not? It has 0 emissions. And I'm like, that's true. At an average price of $66,000, how many people can participate in purchasing that vehicle?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, right now we'd say it's probably about 6%. Why? Because even with all the incentives that we are throwing at it, the industry, it's still only 6%. So is the demand really there for larger than that? But maybe it's because people can't spend an average of $66,000. So with the amount of those materials, the 4 minerals, to be able to produce 1 battery electric vehicle, we could take that same amount of material and build 6 plug-in hybrids. Whoa, that's pretty cool. Because if you're plugging 6 plug-in hybrids at an average price of $50,000, you got more people who can participate. Interesting. That 1 EV, it eliminates about just under 4 tons of carbon emissions in a year. If you go over and you take the 6, it's about 21 tons. Well, it's pretty darn similar, 1 and 6, and more people can participate. But what's the amazing thing is this: if you take the same amount of materials to build that 1 or that 6, you could build 90 hybrids. Those 90 hybrids have an average selling price of about $36,000. Now, so many more people can participate. And that savings is about 137 tons of carbon emission. So you're like, wow, hold on. That's a lot. And a lot of people can participate. The question has to be asked is, what's the goal? And if the goal is carbon emissions reduction, then a portfolio approach of all of these for different styles of driving in different locations and different dollar amounts of capability to purchase has to be the answer. And that's really where we're going. And we really believe that it is the answer. And in the end, it is the answer. The adoption of EV is going to take a lot longer. But everybody wants to talk about 2026 and 2030 and 2030, 2032. Why? And what are we going to have to do to this world to get more of those minerals? We're going to have to mine them. You know how dirty mining is?
Right.
It's producing significant amount of it. So we can go on and on about this, but ultimately we got to reduce the carbon emissions faster, not sell more EVs faster.
Why are you the only one telling this story?
I don't know. I think every company's got to make a decision for themselves of the strategy they're going to take. Some may feel pressure from government. Some might feel pressure from shareholders. There's different kinds of elements or issues to deal with. What I can tell you is, from a global perspective, you think about it, carbon emissions is not a US problem. It is a global problem.
Right.
So the entire world has to change at the same time if you're going to make a dent. So if you can't sell an EV in Africa because they only have 82% of homes can even get electricity. You're not going to create a grid. You're not going to figure out a way to do, but EVs are, well, the emissions are going to be there. So what do we need to do? We need to figure out a way to solve problems in Africa, in India, in Europe, in Australia, in US. And I can't tell you why others aren't speaking out. What I can tell you is what we're sharing and the data I just gave, the 16, 90 and all this, these are not my numbers. They're not Toyota's numbers. These are numbers directly from the US government about the emissions and the amounts of, and the amounts of minerals that go into them. We're just saying, if that's true, then shouldn't we be looking at just a reduction in carbon as being the goal?
Well, and we haven't even talked about infrastructure. Why wouldn't hybrids make the most sense?
Yeah. I can understand that when a person says, yeah, but it still has gasoline in the vehicle. I get that. I do. The goal is reduction. And over time, quite honestly, I think the plug-in hybrid probably is the end solution.
Right.
That's my own personal belief.
Mine too.
If you can have a plug-in hybrid, think about this. In the US, the average person across all urban and suburban, if you take it, the average person drives round trip to and from work 32 miles in a day. 32 miles in a day. Stop off at a grocery store, pick up a kid at school, maybe it's 40. So if you produced a plug-in hybrid that had 40 or more miles on a charge, your normal activity would allow you to not use any gasoline. Charge it up each night at home, no problem, range. You want to go to your friend's house, grandma's house, you want to go on a trip, you can go, put the gasoline in the car, and now there's no range anxiety. There's the ability at any level to go anywhere you want. The charging is significantly less. You put all that together, plug-in hybrid becomes, and you're still using less of those minerals in long term and at a lower cost point, so more people can participate. That to me is the answer. Why are more people not saying that? We can argue a lot about how much they've invested, or I'll let that be for the other companies.
Yeah. Let's talk about something fun for a second and get back to sports.
All right.
Toyota is a very proud sponsor of the Olympics.
Yeah.
Next year, the Olympics move to Paris, and I know that you have and of course there was the Olympics in Tokyo in 2020 that Toyota was a part of, and you have a real passion for the Paralympic athletes as well. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, you may be able to see behind me. These are all the highlights or from what our partnership with Olympics in Paris coming up. Being an athlete, I love the efforts. I love the Olympic credo. I love everything about the Olympics, and I always have had a passion for the Olympics since I was a kid. I wanted to be an Olympian. In fact, in 1988, I tried out for the American baseball team in the U.S. baseball team, and wasn't able to make it, and that was good. But the fact is, I had a passion for it. Where my passion has transitioned even transformed more is in the Paralympics. Toyota is now the sponsor of all U.S. Paralympians, all of them.
Right.
And we created a Paralympic fund. It's called the Paralegacy Fund, and even with that, all of our dealers even contribute to that. This is something where we're partnering to really breathe more strength and life into the Paralympic movement. But in both cases, my passion is, again, it's that whole idea of back that continuous improvement. In sports, you never have reached it. That's why world records continue to be broken. You never get done. It's always more to do. And the idea of respect for people and how it ties into Paralympians, and people, as definition it's Olympics people with disabilities. And I say, no, it's not for people with disabilities. It's for people with superhuman abilities. And to get to know them and have them. And literally, I have all of our Paralympians and the ones for U.S. athletes on my phone, and I can text them and call them, and it's relational. So my passion is high. Can't wait for the Paris Games. I'll be there for almost all of them. And I love seeing our Team Toyota athletes win. I think as a country, if I'm not mistaken, I might have this wrong, but I think we're right. I think if we were our own country, we would have been the 12th most decorated country. If that's just the Team Toyota athletes, I think that's right. It's either 11th or 12th. Okay, that's fun, and it makes a part of, I think, where the sponsorship and Mr. Toyota about mobility and the vision around how we would be able to pursue mobility and learning from different people. It was a great marriage.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, we'll look forward to the Paris Games next year, and maybe talk to one of your athletes leading up to that on this program. What do you want to do? Final thing. What do you want to do in this job? What is the Jack Hollis legacy?
Yeah. Good question. As a word, it would be as a personal legacy, it would be is to leave a legacy of servanthood. I love serving our dealers. I love serving our team members. I love serving my own executive assistant. I love serving the other executives in here. The legacy is I want Toyota and Lexus to be about how we serve others. Olympians, Paralympians, Jason Stein, automotive media, auto shows. How do we serve the best? That's really the legacy that I want to leave. Because both life and this auto industry is about others.
Yeah.
It's not about me. And if I can serve others, that brings me joy. And I have found that when you serve others, you learn way more than you could ever imagine. And that's truly where I want to take this time in this company.
Toyota North America team captain, one-time lender, a near Olympian, Jack Hollis. It's been an absolute pleasure to be with you. Thank you for being on Cars and Culture.
Thank you, and thank you for the show, Cars and Culture, and what you're doing, Jason. Really appreciate you and your efforts and having me on. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks again to my guest today, Toyota North America leader, Jack Hollis. And to see my interview with Jack, go to the Cars and Culture YouTube channel. Like and subscribe to see more than 100 interviews. And thanks for listening to Cars and Culture. You can follow us on LinkedIn and on Facebook, as well as on Instagram at Cars and Culture SXM and at Twitter at Cars and Culture. I'm Jason Stein. Thanks for listening to the show. We'll see you down the road.